camera.
This is podcast 19, entitled Building Bridges of Forgiveness and Faith. You can find it in chapter 4 of our book, Marriage on the Mend.
Welcome. As you know, Penny and I are marriage missionaries. We serve God on 40-day mission trips. During those journeys, we've driven over many different kinds of bridges. And, each bridge is built in a special way, right? Because there's some places when we go over bridges, they're small gaps, so they don't need to be as built like the San Francisco Bay Bridge, for instance. Mm-hmm. In some places, they were built like 40 years ago, and so that the architecture has changed, the strength of the bridges has changed. So each bridge is different. It depends on where you're at and what you need to do to get from one side to the other.
And we share this analogy with you because bridge building is something that you have to do in your relationship to get over those murky points.
Yes.
Actually, in the book, we talk about standing over murky waters, those times when you feel like there's a great chasm in between you. And a lot of it is from the past, consequences of sin, consequences from the fall in the Garden of Eden. I mean, just those things that we deal with in the day-to-day. But at times, I remember feeling like we were standing at the edge of these murky waters and we didn't know how to get on from one side of that to the other. And so we share that with you to, I guess, that analogy to remind you that forgiveness is what builds that bridge so that you can take a step of faith and get to the other side. It's forgiveness that has to happen in the relationship about what caused those murky waters. It could be a small little gap, like you just got into it, as you were driving down the street going to church or whatever, and you need to say, oh honey, I need to ask for your forgiveness for something. Or it could be like we had an 11-year gap that was full of sin and darkness and things like that. And so, of course, it was a process to build that bridge of faith. But it's forgiveness and faith, the combination of the two, that build the bridge to get to the other side when you feel like you're in those points that are difficult in your marriage.
So building bridges is a process, okay? There's different things that you have to consider. There's the materials. How far do you have to span across the water to get to the other side? And, what's the terrain like? Is it mountains or is it in flat lands? In Florida, we have a lot of bridges here that are all over the place, but they're flat. And it's amazing how long some of these bridges are. And especially if you go down to the Florida Keys, it goes for 30, 40 miles or whatever to get down to the Keys. But here's the deal. Each of our marriages are different, and our circumstances are different. And you need to see what you need to do to build in your marriage to get to the other side together, not separately, but together. And this bridge needs to be a bridge in which you can keep using it over and over and over and over again so that you come closer not only to yourselves, to each other, but to God. And that's really important. Your connection to God has to be first. And then the horizontal, your spouse, it comes second. But you need to know what that process is. You need to know what's creating the problems, and then you have to address it. And when they build a bridge, sometimes they have to remove some of the land on each side in order to pour the structure, the foundation, in order to make the bridge stand tall and last for a long time. If you remember a few years ago in Minnesota, a bridge collapsed and lots of people died, and it was amazing. It was unbelievable that a bridge that carries so many commuters could collapse. Penny and I were in the 1989 earthquake in San Francisco when the Cypress structure collapsed, and there was a ton of people that got killed there. And so it's really important. If you don't build a good, solid bridge in your marriage, you're going to land up destroying it and not making it better like God wants it to be.
And you're not just going to build one bridge in your marriage, over forgiveness, over those struggle points. It's going to be, time and time and time again, like Clint mentioned, different bridges for different purposes and different times time periods. And, we're going to touch on this topic of bridges of forgiveness and faith for the next couple podcasts. It's that important. Most of the couples we deal with struggle at the point of forgiveness, and they get stuck there, and they get stuck on that side of the murky waters, and they don't know how to cross over. So we're going to spend some time talking about this. We've waited till halfway through these podcasts to start dealing with some dicey stuff, and we're going to speak straight from our heart, straight from the heart of our marriage and our experience. So be sure to tune in next week. If you need a copy of our book, you'll find it at inverseministries.org.